when we're programming, one of the more common tasks that we need to perform are comparisons. And comparisons take a look at two variables and see if they're equal, or one is greater than or less than another, or we check if another one of their properties is the same or different. Comparisons will form a core part of your programming logic. So let's see how they're done at c#pad.com. Let's create two integers to compare. Int mynum is equal to 10 and int mynum2 is equal to 20. So how do we compare these two? The first way of comparing two variables is to use an if statement. If, open brackets, mynum is equal to, and the way we define this or type this in C# is with two equal signs next to each other, and then we pass it the one we want to compare it to, which is mynum2. Then we open up a curly brace and we close a curly brace. Now, if mynum is equal to mynum2, everything between these two braces will get executed. So let's type console.writeLine numbers are equal. Then let's click go and see what happens. Well, nothing's output on our console because the numbers are not equal, so this code never gets called. Let's copy that section of code, paste it in, and let's change our numbers to both be 10. Then click go, and we get a message back saying numbers are equal because the if statement has compared them, come back with true, and allowed us to execute the code. Now again, let's paste that in, leave the numbers at 10 and 20, and we're going to play around with this if statement a little more. We can say if the numbers are equal, we'll do that. We can also add an else. And else simply says, if the if statement doesn't execute, then I would like you to execute this as a default. So inside here we can have some more code. Console writeLine numbers are unequal. If we click go on this, we get the output of unequal. That's great. Now, what if I copy all of that, I paste it in again? What if we have sort of two items that we want to check? Well, we can add an else if mynum is not equal to mynum2. So this is going to achieve the same thing as before, except that I can check explicitly if these two numbers are not equal to each other. And the way we define not equals is with an exclamation and an equals. And the beauty of doing it this way is that if I wished, I could have another else if that would check for something else, and we'd have whatever condition in there, and we had some more code to execute. And I can have as many of these else ifs as I wish. I can keep going and checking for program logic. So let me just remove this last one and run this. Numbers are unequal because it's gone into here, seen that they aren't equal, and returned this code. So at a very basic level, that is how you compare stuff in C#. Now you can imagine if we have 20 things to check, if else if is going to start getting a little bit unmanageable. And to solve that, we can compare things using a switch case statement. So I'm just going to reload C#pad to give us a fresh window. And let's look at how to define a switch case statement. Let's first make an integer called my num is equal to 1. Then let's define our switch. This is going to grab my num, and then we open our curly braces, create some space, and close them. Now inside of these curly braces, we define a case for each switch. So let's have case 1, and this says if my num is equal to 1, then we are going to write console.writeLine num is 1. Then, because we've executed this case, we need what's called a break, and this stops executing the whole switch because we've found our case. Now of course we can keep testing. We can have a case where the number might be 2, and we print back 2, and so on and so on. What a switch statement does need is a default case. So if it cannot find any of these, then it will go to the default. We'll have console.writeLine, and we'll have something like, let's just say, default case. And of course we need a break with that. And then let's indent it to make it look good. So that is a switch case statement. As you can see, it's a fair bit easier to read than a whole bunch of if-else statements. And in some ways it's a little more flexible. So let's run this, and I would expect num is 1. If I copied all of this and I changed my num to 10, we should get the default case, which we do. So those are two ways of comparing stuff in C#, the if-else statement or the switch case statement.